After that, we'll have a panel discussion featuring Beena Sarwar, myself, Khabar Mumtaz, and Zafar Masood Saab. At the conclusion of that, we will try to have 5 to 10 minutes for comments and questions, if anyone has any.
Where a bunch of us Pakistani women were in this Ayurvedic, there I say it, spa, and the film was being shown there, and we had an audience, of course, of us Pakistanis, but also a fairly big audience of Sri Lankans and Europeans who were fellows, patients at the spa. And it was quite illuminating to see their reactions. Firstly, of course, one is interested in how Sri Lankans themselves looked at this particular topic, but also the Europeans and their responses. Several of them said to me later that, I feel so embarrassed that I have been coming to Sri Lanka for several years, and I never looked beyond the surface. And for the first time, I've realized, what is actually happening in Sri Lanka. As far as introducing Beena goes, if I was going to be really want to put her in an embarrassing position, I would start off with saying, well, I've known Beena since she was born, but I'm not going to tell you tales of her babyhood, but really talk about her work as a journalist, which is what is relevant to this film, and also to work that she's been doing in some of the areas that we hold very close to our hearts. Beena's had a very distinguished career, working in the media in Pakistan. She was editor of the Sunday section at Frontier Post, and later News on Sunday. I think that I think she's one of the few people who could have persuaded Shoaib Hashmi to start writing a column. There was a lot of twisting of arms there, but let's not go into that. And then she has worked for quite a while in doing a program that we were very interested in, which was Aman Ki Asha. And looking at the two, I would say, juvenile neighbors, the boys with the toys who just cannot give up their positions, while the rest of ordinary mortals like us would far prefer to be able to work together for our people who are in desperate need. And that was a very, very successful initiative. It has waned now for obvious reasons. But since then, she's jumped back to life by setting up SAPPAN, which for those of you who don't know, is a South Asia Peace Action Network, which has been extremely active and has formed a platform for conversations, for news gathering, for informing us in South Asia about our neighbors, and sometimes informing us about ourselves. I think that this particular film that Beena has worked on tells us as to how, when someone who comes from a different place in South Asia looks at South Asia, in this case Sri Lanka, they are able to see the connections against recent happenings, both in Sri Lanka and in Bangladesh, and dare one say, India, Pakistan too. There are many lessons that one can learn. It is equally relevant when one listens to a farmer in Sri Lanka. It's equally relevant to the farming community in Pakistan, in India, Bangladesh, and elsewhere in South Asia. So it's, I hope you really look at this in the spirit in which the film was made, which was to get people to talk and listen when they do talk, and then realize that it's a story which goes well past the confines of the map of Sri Lanka and spills over into the rest of South Asia. So I hope you enjoy yourselves, and I leave it to you, Beena. Tell them about it. I'll make a move.
Thank you so much, Chimihala, as I call her. About the film, several people have asked why Sri Lanka and why this film, why I went there. So I had gone last year with a cousin of mine, who's also a filmmaker, Aisha Gazdar, who some of you may know. Last year we had just gone on a holiday. It was a year after they had just had that big crisis. And then that sort of sparked in me the curiosity to follow up. And so I was kept in touch with friends I had reconnected with. And basically, when this opportunity came to go talk to farmers in this very, very remote village, about 5 hours out of Colombo, it was a 5-hour drive, good roads, bad bathroom, very small, I don't know can everybody hear me? So there were about 10 of us there in this very tiny village, and they thought of me as a foreigner, so people would keep coming to see me, to keep coming to meet me, because some of them had never met a foreigner before. So I felt very strange because I didn't feel like a foreigner. I knew I was an outsider in that society, but then one is an outsider in any society that one is not. I can be an outsider if I go to, some community in Pakistan, somebody from Karachi and an urban person. So this film, I applied to various places for grants, and I got a grant from the Pulitzer Center, which then allowed me to go and make this film. And I did a couple of other reports, and I have another film that I didn't finish that I will probably go back and finish, which has more to do with China and India and the USA and shipping and sea lanes and stuff like that. But that's another story, so I took it out of this completely. And I don't think I'll say much more about the film. And at the end of the film, we'll have a discussion with Zafar, and I would like to thank Zafar for making this event possible, because I was showing it in Karachi and Lahore, showed it in Karachi at T2F and at Canvas Gallery, and in Islamabad at the Black Hole, and Zafar was like, why not Lahore? And I said I wasn't here for such a short time. So Zafar, being Zafar, made a phone call, and it happened like that. And that's what happened in Karachi also. Just things happened very quickly everywhere I went, because I hadn't planned to do these screenings, but I was in Pakistan after Sri Lanka, so it just happened. So I would like to thank Zafar. I would like to thank Bilawal, who has really helped set up this whole place. I would like to thank Razi for so open-heartedly, agreeing immediately. And he's not well. Our Bilawal here. Who has set up the hall, and Razi, who unfortunately fell ill after the Independence Day celebrations that he was involved in, and so he has left a very able, sent us a very able replacement, and thank you, Nazib, for stepping in at the last minute. Just one very quick thing I'll say about Independence Day, since some of the people who are here were with us last night at Wagah border. Some of us had gone there for this joint India-Pakistan celebrations. After 10 years, Pakistanis had got permission to go to 0 Point, and at the last minute, the Indians who had got permission were not allowed to come because they just don't want the people to meet. So this is what, as Salima Hashmi said, the relationship between these two countries holds the whole region back, actually.
I'd like to invite all the panelists to please join me on stage. It's Beena Sarwar, the filmmaker, as you all already know. Zafar Masood Saab, who is, in a very brief introduction, currently the CEO of the Bank of Punjab, and he's also authored a few books specifically about policymaking. And Khabar Mumtaz, an activist and a former chair of the National Commission on the Status of Women, and she has also worked with the Pakistan Poverty Alleviation Fund. So, does anyone here have any comments about the movie itself before we go into the questions? Yeah, please.
Well, I can start if you want. First of all, thank you, Beena, for making this documentary. To me, it was like a mirror to South Asian countries. We are all going through a similar situation, and it makes us reflect on what is happening and why is it happening.
this disconnect between people and the government, of those who make policies and rule, the poverty in countries where there is economic growth, people don't benefit from it. We see the example of Bangladesh, this political instability, discontent, the disconnect. I think all that is happening around us. And the deeper, I think, issue of the neoliberal policies that have been adopted, the economic policies, the web in which all our countries are now trapped, I think, global economic economy that entraps us and we can't even extricate ourselves. So how do we as a region respond to it? I think that's what the big question that comes into my mind, that how do we as a region respond to something which needs a collective response, as a regional response to be able to counter what is happening at the global level, which affects us as people. And also, I think we need also to look at this whole notion of democracy that you focus on. Voting by itself is not enough. Listening to what people are saying and what their needs are is the most important thing, which is not happening. So I think for me, this was a mirror to what's happening here, what's happening in Bangladesh, and the political instability. Nepal keeps having its governments falling and new ones, the same people going around in different parties and coming back and going out. So I think these are the things that we also need to reflect on, and also to be able to push for connectivity among the people of this region, because it's the people who will forge change. We've seen that it does not come from the top, it has to come from the bottom. And without that, getting with each other as people who want change, I think we'll remain divided and isolated, as we remain divided and isolated within our own country. So I have just a few comments on the impact of the documentary and the reflections that it triggers.
जी शुक्रिया. आई थिंक खाबर साहिबा ने बहुत अच्छी तरह उसका अहाता कर दिया है, और बीना कहते जो बहुत ही रिवीलिंग एंड एनलाइटनिंग ऑब्वियसली जो फिल्म थी वो अपनी जगह थी. The obvious question that comes to mind is the similarities between us, potentially with Sri Lanka, and for that matter, the most recently with Bangladesh. तो मैं कुछ उस पर दो चार गुजारिशात करना चाहूँगा. पहली तो ये है कि एक बहुत क्लियर सिमिलैरिटी between Sri Lanka and Pakistan has been on the economic structure of the two countries. Largely dependent on imports for their essential items, and then very precarious FX flows coming through from the export side, i.e. remittances and tourism. बीना की फिल्म में हमने भी देखा कि वो पेंडेमिक के बाद उनका क्राइसिस शुरू हुआ. वो प्राइमरीली जब उनकी रेमिटेंसेस आधी हो गई, उनकी टूरिज़म की जो फ्लोज थे वो आधे हो गए बिकॉज ऑफ पेंडेमिक. तो दिस इज़ व्हाट हैपेंड. बट एसेंशियली बिकॉज उनकी जो एसेंशियल आइटम्स थे दे वर डिपेंडेंट ऑन द इंपोर्ट्स, दैट ट्रिगर्ड द रियल क्राइसिस. एंड आपने अपनी फिल्म में भी कहा है, किसी ने उसमें कहा भी था कि it was the medicine which fell short, it was the food, it was the energy, and all these things pretty similar to the structure that we are in. एक और element जो बहुत similar तो नहीं है, but उन दोनों के effects तकरीबन similar ही हैं. मारूफ या तशरीफ़ रखते हैं, he'll bear me on this. जो मेकअप है और GDP वो दोनों का बड़ा similar in sense में है कि पाकिस्तान का तकरीबन 92-93% जो GDP है वो कंजम्पशन ड्रिवन है. मैं जिस तरह जोकिंगली कहता हूँ लोगों से कि हम अपने डॉलर खाते हैं लिटरली. सो वी इम्पोर्ट फॉर वेस्टिंग इट ऑन कंजम्पशन रादर इन्वेस्टमेंट. ऑन दी अदर हैंड श्रीलंका की कंजम्पशन जो है वो तकरीबन कोई 56-57% है ऑफ द GDP, बट उनका जो इन्वेस्टमेंट भी था वो बहुत ही non-feasible, long gestation projects में था. And there were multiple reasons for why this whole crisis did happen, which I'll talk about later in my points. Dissimilarities में, of course, we all know that, on Human Development Index, they are 78th, we are 164th. So वो बड़ा obvious है, glaring सा है, but productivity में भी they are around 7% in their labor productivity. We are at 1.5% of our labor productivity. But जो सबसे important और critical चीज़ है, मैं चाहूँगा कि उस पर बीना भी करें, shed light करें later on, वो ये कि जो मेरा एक assessment है, और ये this holds true for Bangladesh too. At times ये जो Human Development Index होता है, especially education का piece, हमारा literacy rate और उनके literacy rate का जो मुवाजना भी किया जाता है, poles apart. We talk about 92% plus there, ours is 58%. वो भी बड़ा जो तशवीश की निगाह से देखा जाता है कि वो भी है या नहीं है. वो एट टाइम्स एक लाइबिलिटी भी बन जाता है, और उसके साथ अगर स्किल ना हो, एंड टिपिकल केस इन पॉइंट इज बांग्लादेश, तो इट बिकम्स इवन मोर अ लाइबिलिटी. सो यू हैव एजुकेशन बट लैक skill set. I would suspect a similar thing would be the case in Sri Lanka. Surely it was the case in Bangladesh. And Pakistan, luckily जो आपको नज़र नहीं आ रहा रिएक्शन, वो शायद गालिबन इसी वजह से नज़र नहीं आ रहा, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ ये इस वक्त तक वो एजुकेशन लेवल ही उतना नहीं है, अवेयरनेस उतनी नहीं है कि आप वहाँ तक पहुँचे. जो एक और सिमिलैरिटी है वो ये कि जो डिसीजंस थे वो बहुत पॉलिटिकली मोटिवेटेड थे, whether they were related to investments or more so they were delayed decisions. हमारे केस में भी हमने बहुत डिसीजन डिले किए, उन्होंने हमसे ज़्यादा किए, हमने वो देर से किए. पेंडेमिक आया एंड ऑल हेल ब्रोक लूज. ये एक और सिमिलैरिटी हम दोनों के दरमियान है बहुत ज़्यादा. एक डिसिमिलैरिटी ये है कि इकोनॉमिक मैनेजमेंट, बाय द वे हमारी कोई इकोनॉमिक मैनेजमेंट बहुत अच्छी नहीं है, बट रिलेटिव टर्म्स में उनसे बेहतर रही ड्यूरिंग पेंडेमिक, जहाँ उनकी रेमिटेंसेस तकरीबन कोई 18-20% नीचे आई थी, हमारी 26% ऊपर गई थी. सो इन दैट सेंस वी डिड अ गुड जॉब देयर. बट subsequent to the pandemic too, I think we took the policy decisions, difficult ones in time. They did not, and we all saw what happened there. Then another dissimilarity is on the debt composition. ज़्यादातर जो क्राइसिस आता है, और ये मैं आप लोगों से ज़रूर शेयर इसलिए भी करना चाहता हूँ बिकॉज बहुत ज़्यादा शोर इस वक्त मच रहा है कि जी डेट की रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग करें, रुपये का मसला है, फलाना. इट्स द डॉलर डेट विच क्रिएट्स द प्रॉब्लम एट द एंड ऑफ द डे. और जो डॉलर डेट की कॉम्पोजिशन एंड द ओवरऑल डेट इन श्रीलंका वो 3/4 था, 77% था. पाकिस्तान के केस में 1/3 है, यानी तकरीबन 34% के आसपास है. तो दैट इज़ द रीज़न वाई कि हम मिसमैच रन नहीं कर रहे. जब मैंने ऊपर आपसे कहा कि पॉलिटी की मोटिवेटेड लॉन्ग जेस्टेशन की इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स में उन्होंने इन्वेस्ट किया, तो एक तो उन्होंने कमर्शियल डेट लिया जो किसी ने फरमाया भी फिल्म में, और वो बाय डिफ़ॉल्ट महंगा था, वो शॉर्ट टर्म था, वो मैच नहीं करता, उसमें करेंसी का एक गैप भी था. हमने भी काफ़ी सिमिलर प्रॉब्लम देखी है इन CPEC लोन्स कि जहाँ पर जेस्टेशन पीरियड बहुत लंबा है, जब वो एक्सपोर्ट फ्लोज आने शुरू होंगे, और जो है वो इन द इंटरम आपने वो लोन का मिसमैच है और यू हैड अ प्रॉब्लम देयर. एक सिमिलैरिटी इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट इज़ द चाइनीज़ लोन एंड सपोर्ट फॉर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. उनके केस में भी वहीं से शुरू हुआ था, उनके पोर्ट से. हमारे केस में भी CPEC सीम्स टू बी द रीज़न फॉर इट. अनदर सिमिलैरिटी, मैं अभी फिल्म देख रहा था तो मुझे ख्याल आया, इज़ द करप्शन एंड द लीकेज इन फिस्कल अफेयर्स. जो गवर्नमेंट के लेवल पे ये दोनों जगह हमें एक सिमिलैरिटी नज़र आती है. लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट, एक और जो डिसिमिलैरिटी है, और उसमें एक थोड़ी सी कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन भी है, एक सिमिलैरिटी का एलिमेंट भी है, वो ये कि जो मेच्योरिटी और जो पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम की मेच्योरिटी है जिसका बीना ने भी जिक्र किया, वो बड़ा ऑब्वियस है, हमें बहुत क्लियरली नज़र आता है. क्राइसिस के बाद दोबारा इलेक्शन होने जा रहे हैं, मगर जो सिमिलैरिटी उस पीस में नज़र आ रही है वो credibility and the credence in the system है. That needed to be changed. This is the similarity between us two. So मेरी हद तक तो यही है जारी.
जिस तरह आप दोनों ने पॉइंट आउट किया और मूवी के अंदर भी था कि द बिगेस्ट इशू फॉर द पब्लिक इज़ whatever money is coming in or whatever money is being managed is not really being spent on them. So वो जो gap है between the macro and micro, how exactly are governments supposed to overcome that to ensure that the public get what it needs while the country also gets the haircuts it requires just to maintain fiscal sustainability?
The economic questions I wouldn't be able to answer, sorry. I can give you the impacts and also what needs to be done, perhaps, focusing on people, but I think the economic questions you would be in a better position.
जी मैं बड़ा अच्छा सवाल पूछा है जहाँ आपने और बड़ा मुश्किल सवाल भी है अगर इसका जवाब मिल जाए ना तो दुनिया की काफ़ी प्रॉब्लम्स आसान हो जाएंगी नॉट से श्रीलंका नॉट से ये जो डिस्कनेक्ट है बिटवीन मैक्रो एंड माइक्रो इट्स अ वेरी टिपिकल डिस्कनेक्ट and no particular system per se has been able to address this. In fact, one system which has been considered, and I still believe that it's probably the best system available to us, which is the capitalistic system, however capitalism, but it needs some tweaking. We have seen some tweaking there. At the end of the day, to answer you in a very pointed way, in my very humble opinion, at the end of the day, it's the welfare of the people, it's the combination of the direct welfare and the indirect welfare over the period of time. Any government policy has to have the element of public welfare at the center of that decision. The moment you deviate from there, that should be the pivot. The moment you deviate from there, you see the crisis coming through. श्रीलंका में वो बहुत जल्दी आ गया बिकॉज 7.2% पे इकोनॉमी श्रंक कर गई थी हमारे केस में हम फिर भी ग्रो करते रहे 3.55 इस साल भी ग्रो कर लेंगे बट वो पिवट जो है ना वो उससे आपको नहीं हटना और वो अनफॉर्चुनेटली कोई सिल्वर बुलेट नहीं है कोई शॉर्ट टर्म सोल्यूशन नहीं है वी हैव टू लिव थ्रू दिस सिचुएशन ओवर अ पीरियड टाइम एंड देन यू विल सी ओवर दैट थिंग्स विल कम अलोंग and they will converge at a point which is at the larger welfare and benefit of people. No, they can't. They should not. And when they contest, this is exactly what happens.
No, what I'm saying is that we have to perhaps go further to the basics.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, the system, the capitalist system, results in certain kinds of inequities.
Yes.
And they continue. How do you challenge them? Because obviously the system hasn't succeeded in the last 30 or whatever.
मैंने इसलिए गुजारिश की कि some tweaking is necessary now.
The tweaking, I think, needs a total overturn. I mean, I'm sorry, this is a discussion that we're having. Maybe people can say more on that. But I think we need to rethink the system itself, which we are not actually. We are still tinkering with the systems, and that system doesn't change.
अच्छा देखिए जो ये फिल्म में भी क्योंकि है तो मैं वहीं से ही ड्रॉ कर लेता हूँ वो एक इकोनॉमिस्ट थे जिन्होंने बड़ी अच्छी बात की उसमें कि आप 1940 से एक सिस्टम पे चलते आ रहे थे वो 1970 में जाके बिल्कुल फट गया वो 80 में तो वो सिस्टम भी तो फेल हुआ द पॉइंट इज दैट वी हैव द सिस्टम मस्ट बी डेमोक्रेटिक it must be dynamic and there shall be an improvement in the system as we go along. If we keep stuck to the contours of this or cliche, we'll get stuck with this. For a lack of better word, you can call it capitalism or socialism, whatever. But fact is, it has to be homegrown, people-driven, people welfare system.
Referring to the homegrown aspect, now one thing that keeps coming up throughout this documentary is how this is a regional problem. All the countries in this region sooner or later go through this exact same cycle. They are falling into debt, they are going bankrupt or going under unrest. They have issues with maintaining democracy. How exactly can we encourage the public to trust in the people that they have seen basically squander every single chance they've gotten for decades?
I think the issue is that the people who are governing have to think. Otherwise, what happens, we've seen in Bangladesh, is what will happen. And it keeps happening even in Pakistan. In pockets, we see this kind of a reaction. And the state is so powerful that it tries to silence people. So the change has to come from the top also. People can protest, and they protest. In Bangladesh, they've succeeded by the volume of people, the numbers that have come out. In Sri Lanka, they've had a total revolt. But we still, that change we are not seeing happening. But the change has to come from those who are ruling to see, because they are threatened also when something like this happens. So and that trust has to be built. We are no longer, none of the countries of the world now are welfare states. And that has to also perhaps, the responsibility is of the government to look after its citizens, and that's not happening. So that link between the people and the governed and the governing has broken down completely. So why we talk about a regional response is because then, at least at the regional level, there should be a consensus of some sort of how do you work on systems that are for the welfare of the people. The way we are now in this region, we're not even talking to each other, and the only thing we hear about each other are the worst things. All the good things that are happening here don't get currency at all. So we are, those just engender the division. And therefore, this push, we are as part of this small effort, the South Asia Peace Action Network. The idea is that there are so many things that bring us together, the culture, the music, and it was happening till about 15 years ago. There was the India-Pakistan Peace Forum, there was the South Asians for Human Rights, there was PANOS South Asia, and we found that our countries started creating hurdles of this communication. There was a South Asia Peace Forum and Policy, South Asia Center for Peace Studies, and women's groups were the ones who met each other even before the thaw came around between. I take it back to 1985, when women across the borders started connecting, because there were so many things in terms of uniting us in what we were suffering together. The nature of the status of women was so similar that we could create those solidarities, and those solidarities worked out at the international level through the UN conferences, for instance. So I think it was all for the betterment of the people of the region, and then, whether it was the cricket matches that brought us together, whether it was, literature festivals that brought us together, the film festivals. So now we only hear of the worst things in each other's country. We don't hear anything that is positive in each other's countries. And those are the positives that we can build on through this person-to-person, context, human context. And one of the demands of the South Asia Peace Action Network is to make the borders soft, open the visa regime, let people meet, not only for security reasons and other reasons, but for positive, because human beings really want peace and safety and security. And perhaps there's more security in that than in a security state. So that's how I see it.
I just add to that. Thank you for bringing that point up. And as you said, that we hear the worst about each other's countries, but that's what we are trying to change with the South Asia Peace Action Network and with Sapan News, which is the syndicated features service, so which goes beyond the headlines, and we provide context and nuance, and we try to amplify that narrative by sending it to multiple media outlets around the region. Gets published in, like, say, the Scroll and Wire in India, Dhaka Tribune. I'm just giving some examples. There's many others, Nepali Times, Sunday Island, and in Sri Lanka, and also an outlet in Australia saying that, because the diaspora is also really important now. So we're getting our articles published in different countries, different media outlets around the world, not just around the region. Yahan pe GeoTV bloggers also published our pieces. And they're available for publication for anybody who gives us due credit. And it's been all, and she's been, Salima Hashmi and Khabar Mumtaz and so many others have been part of this effort from the start with us, just in Lahore, and there are other people in other cities and in other cities around the region and in the diaspora. So we're just trying to, take this narrative further. And so anybody who has, and many of you who are here have endorsed that founding charter, which is just these basic 3 points. One is to let people meet with the aim of like a South Asia Union. If we can have France and Germany can be part of the EU, why can't India and Pakistan be part of a South Asia Union? We know why not, but we can still, like Dr. Mubashir Hassan said, we can at least talk about it. And the second point is economic cooperation. And the third point is collaboration in all issues, like Khawa Mumtaz just said, ranging from women's rights and environment to, human rights and the rights of the incarcerated and sports. And we did a very good session on sportswomen, the challenges and wins, music and art and activism and, all kinds. Because Arshad Nadeem and Neeraj Chopra. And the thing is that they are, so here's the thing. So I think that Arshad Nadeem and Neeraj Chopra are not, we heard about it because they won, because Arshad Nadeem won, and they are friends, and they are competing against each other. But they've been doing this for years. Do you remember the tennis, Rohan Bopana and Esamul Haq? So we had that as well. So, but these are very few things that come out in the news. So that's what, like democracy is a process, not an event. In the same way I tell my journalism students, when you cover the news, look at the process also, not just the event. So there's a lot more such, feelings and people who are involved in all this, and we just hear about that one thing. So, but if you look at the sapannews.com site, you'll see many stories that take that forward, what we Aman ki aasha as well.
इसी वेन में जो आपन का जिक्र हो रहा था, और मैं इसमें 2-3 चीज़ें गुजारिशात करना चाहूँगा. एक तो आई रिसेंटली रोट एन आर्टिकल इन डॉन, शायद मारूफ ने देखा हो. आरिफ साहब मेरे इकोनॉमिक्स के टीचर हैं, तो जो भी मैं भी इकोनॉमिक्स पे बातें कर रहा हूँ, उसकी अच्छी या बुरी बातों का ब्लेम इन पे ही जाता है. सो ये मैंने वेरी स्मार्ट ऑफ हिम. सो उसमें I talked about trade, debt and the poverty reduction. पाकिस्तान की जो ट्रेड है विद द रीजन, इन द रीजन, वो कितनी कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड है. सो $500 million की ट्रेड है, सबसे बड़ी ट्रेड बांग्लादेश के साथ वो $500 million है. बट मोर सो जो अपॉर्चुनिटी है वो इतनी बड़ी है कि इंडिया के साथ जो 45% चीज़ें हाँ जब हम इम्पोर्ट करते हैं, वो अगर इंडिया से इम्पोर्ट करें तो वो चीपर होंगी. और जो इंडिया 70% चीज़ें इम्पोर्ट करता है, वो अगर पाकिस्तान से इम्पोर्ट करे तो उनको चीपर मिलेंगी. And the benefit of that could be translated into 2% of the GDP of Pakistan, and perhaps a similar number to India too.
Okay, I feel we should open up the floor and see if anyone has any comments or questions. Please, just one request, if you have a comment, try to keep it within 30 seconds to 1 minute. It's fine, comments are encouraged, but just keep it brief so that a maximum amount of people get a chance to have their say.
My name is Kamran Malik. I am professional banker. मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि एज़ पर श्रीलंका बहुत अच्छी डॉक्यूमेंट थी, लेकिन इसको अगर पाकिस्तान से कंपेयर करें तो कोई कंपैरिजन नहीं है. बिकॉज इसमें सबसे बड़ी एक तो बात थी, इसमें था कि जी आपके जो लीडर्स हैं दे शुड बी सिंसियर टू आवर कंट्री, और हमारे जो लीडर्स हैं वो सर्टिफाइड क्रिमिनल हैं. ठीक है ना, सर्टिफाइड क्रिमिनल को हमारे सर पे ला के बिठा दिया है, तो हम ये कहेंगे जी हमारा कंट्री ग्रो करेगा नेवर. ठीक है ना. दूसरी ये कि डेमोक्रेसी हमारी कंट्री में बिल्कुल नहीं है. ये हमने लेटेस्ट एग्जांपल देख रही है लास्ट जो हमारे हुए हैं उनमें. ठीक है ना, कि कितने परसेंट से लोगों, सब जानते हैं कितने परसेंट से लोगों ने वोट डाला और किसको डाला है, और उसका रिजल्ट इंटायरली चेंज हो गया रातों रात. तो आप कैसे कह सकते हैं कि हमारा जो है ना डेमोक्रेसी हमारी कंट्री में. तो ये मैं ना कहना चाहूँगा श्रीलंका से कंपैरिजन तो हमारा बिल्कुल नहीं बनता. वो बड़े अच्छे लोग होंगे, बड़े बहादुर लोग, उन्होंने स्टेप लिया, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ कुछ भी नहीं. हमारे जो ऊपर जो स्ट्रिंग्स जो लोग कर रहे हैं, वो आप देख लें कैसे उन्होंने जो सर्टिफाइड क्रिमिनल को हमारे सर पे बिठा दिया, तो हमारा कंट्री क्या ग्रो करेगा, कुछ भी नहीं. थैंक यू.
My name is Tahira Habib. It's a comment and a question maybe that during my previous job I got a chance to meet with international people. I felt, I may be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, I felt that people from Gulf countries, people from, with the Arab background, they had this regional identity. But I felt that it lacked among people from South Asia. So, identity as a South Asian. What can we do on different levels, on people's level, on our civil society level, and on, of course, state policies? What can be done to create or maybe revive that? Thank you very much.
I think we had a very good institutional arrangement in SAARC, which enabled. Yes, we had, and it was which created an environment where you could go to each other, talk to each other. There was a lot of things that happened, and I remember in 2004 there was a social charter that was adopted by SAARC, and it was a citizen social charter that each country had developed through consultations within their own countries, and that got consolidated in the social charter, which gave you broad principles that all of us agreed, all the countries agreed to follow and establish. It did not, and the idea was to nurture this relationship by having, it was a social contract that all countries had agreed to the minimum principles of it. And there were many things that happened. We could go to each other's countries much easily. There was all that. So the point is that was a point of contact. There were many non-official, groupings around it. For instance, even the commissions for status of women would meet as commissions from all over there to be able to understand how systems worked and what we could learn from each other and also share with each other. So that had opened a door. And I think, and then we have the example of SCN in Southeast Asia, where that is an economic platform. In spite of the conflicts between them, there's been no war there. There's no armed conflict between those, even though there are issues that crop up politically. So I think there are many examples, and in the region we've got it in Southeast Asia. Why can't we have a similar sort of arrangement? And we started it, and then it hasn't happened.
I'd just like to add to that, Tahira, thank you for your question/comment. So if you go to the SouthAsiaPeace.com site, more than 92 organizations have endorsed, I think it's 94 now, organizations have endorsed that charter, those 3 points that I mentioned. That's one thing. Secondly, if you go to the South Asia Peace site and search for SAARC, you'll find a lot of material that can be used to amplify this narrative, and also on the sapannews.com site, because we've carried several articles about this, which can take this kind of thing further. So I think that I would just invite all of you to check out those sites and use that material, take it further, even translate it or whatever.
All right. My name is Maruf Ali Sayed. I'm an economist and a recovering engineer. But it's very interesting. Coincidentally, Bina, first of all, congratulations on this important work. I think a lot of reflection for all of us. Coincidentally, I also say that growth is a process, not a product, right? But what really struck me in this documentary, and I'd like the panelists to shed some light on it, is the role of local government, right? And that seems to be broken, right? Certainly in Pakistan, you see political parties themselves not really sticking to the mandate or deepening the culture of politics. And local government is really important in also bringing up leaders, right? We seem to be stuck with leaders whose first job is to be a prime minister or a chief minister, right? I'm sure some newly graduated banker would not become the CEO of Bank of Punjab, right? You have to go through the process, and Zafar very nicely articulated some of the similarities and dissimilarities between these economies. But I think what is really important is bringing the power and the fiscal decision making closer to the people, right? You cannot pretend to know the problems of a village sitting in Islamabad. So I'd like to the panelists to shed light on local government and the role for both for democracy and economy.
I must admit that I am not aware of, Maruf, आपको पता होगा इसका जवाब भी, how robust the local government system is. But all I can comment is that, that is a dilemma and tragedy of the region, generally speaking. We saw that broken in Bangladesh. We saw that broken in Pakistan. India, on the other hand, has a very robust and thriving local government structure, and that seemed to be working well in terms of keeping the sort of democracy intact. Not really sure about Sri Lanka. Perhaps Beena can comment better.
In Sri Lanka right now it's a bit broken because like Ranga said, they haven't had local government, local bodies elections in many years. They're overdue, long overdue. And I think that's the case in Pakistan as well from what I gather.
Jazib asked this question earlier, the benefits, the connection of the micro, perhaps that has the embedded answer to the local government's robustness as well.
We have time for maybe one more question or comment. So
I am Ajaz. I am mechanical engineer from Nurse University and working for Albario Engineering. My question is from Zafar Masood Saab. Lately, we have been experiencing energy crisis and IPP's issue. We have a circular debt of 3 trillion rupees of electricity and 3 trillion rupees of gas. And on the other hand, we are 5th most populous nation, Pakistan. If we talk of municipal solid waste, it is 70,000 tons per day is our municipal solid waste, and world is producing electricity, gas, hydrogen out of waste. Scandinavian countries are finished with their waste. They import waste. And but why we miss those waste to energy plants in Pakistan? And number 2 is EVs, electric vehicles. Pakistan government has made the EV policy in 2019, and at the moment we have 45,000 megawatt installed capacity, whereas our demand is just 25,000 megawatt. The surplus 20,000 megawatt in summers and 30,000 in winters, because demand in winters goes down further, 10,000 megawatt. So we have surplus electricity and we are paying capacity payments. So why don't we channelize that surplus electricity into EVs? We lower the tariff instead of 60 rupees per kilowatt hour, make it 20 rupees kilowatt hour, and flood the Pakistan market with cheap EVs. There are EVs for 2 million rupees, 3 million rupees in China, 4 million rupees, 5 million. So we can, your comment on this, these two things. Thank you.
अच्छा, ये वैसे तो देखें इस पर इतनी डिबेट ऑलरेडी टीवी पे हर वक्त हो रही है कि इस पर मैं क्या मज़ीद लाइट शेड करूं। मैं 2 गुजारिशात आपसे इसमें कर दूंगा। एक तो ये कि जो सॉलिड वेस्ट वाली बात है वो इन माय प्रीवियस लाइफ बाय द वे आई वर्कड ऑन दैट प्रोजेक्ट इन कराची, एंड ये जो लोकल सिस्टम, गवर्नमेंट सिस्टम की बात कर रहे हैं, there are many layers of complications there and regulatory requirements but administrative issues. अगर हमारे पास एक thriving, एक functional local government system होता तो आपको नज़र आ जाता कि solid to waste जो है, because it's essentially the domain of them where the ownership is lacking. मैं इसको बड़ा आपको nutshell में बता रहा हूँ, वैसे तो I can write a thesis on this. I worked on one project in Karachi. यकीन माने आज के बाद मैंने फैसला कर लिया था कि वो नहीं करूँगा, बैंकिंग कर लेता हूँ, बेहतर है, ये नहीं हो सकता। वैसे भी बैंकिंग आजकल बड़ा आसान काम हो गया, आपको पता है, सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट को पैसे देने हैं, दैट्स अबाउट इट। जो दूसरी बात आपने ईवी की देखिए, जो मामला है वो एट द एंड ऑफ द डे कहाँ जाके रुकता है, वो सब्सिडी पे जाके रुक रहा है। चाहे आप ईवी की तरफ डाइवर्ट करें या कहीं और डाइवर्ट करें, आपको सब्सिडी देनी पड़ेगी उस पोर्शन के ऊपर जहाँ आप कैपेसिटी चार्जेस पे कर रहे हैं। द चैलेंज इज कि जो कैपेसिटी चार्जेस का मामला है वो दो तरीके से हल होगा। एक तो देखिए एनर्जी सेक्टर के अंदर, बिकॉज यू आर इन पार्ट ऑफ दैट सेक्टर, it is not, there is even short term in energy sector is 3 years, वो भी thanks to alternate energy, solar and all. Otherwise energy is a long gestation, long term project, 7 to 10 years. So we need to be a bit patient about it. ये कहीं ना कहीं खपत इसकी आई जाएगी। We anticipated कि हम 6-7-8% पे ग्रो करेंगे, वो नहीं हुआ। बट राइट अवे जो हमारे पास इसमें ऑप्शंस, पॉलिसी ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल हैं उसमें, और ये सऊदी अरेबिया ने बाय द वे किया इन सोलर राइट एट द बिगिनिंग, जब सोलर बहुत महंगा होता था, दे स्ट्रेच द टेनर ऑफ द डेट अंडरलाइंग, बिकॉज द बिगेस्ट कल्प्रिट इन दिस मूवी, बिकॉज वहाँ पर भी एग्जैक्टली यही हो रहा था। और काफ़ी हद तक जो एनर्जी सेक्टर का क्राइसिस हमारा है वो क्वाइट सिमिलर टू श्रीलंका का जो क्राइसिस था, वो उसके साथ है। एक्सपेंसिव कमर्शियल डेट, टर्म मिसमैच, टेनर मिसमैच, एंड यू नो फॉरेन करेंसी ड्रिवन, while the enough foreign currency is not being generated through this, so local currency से आपको generate करना पड़ा। हमारा भी बिल्कुल similar यही situation है in energy sector. All we need to do is to talk about, patiently handle the restructuring of this. ये जो होता है ना कि जी आप उसको डॉलर को यहाँ फिक्स करते हैं और डेट इतना ले जाएं, ये नहीं हो सकता। आपको हर IPP को निकाल के सेपरेट सोल्यूशन निकालना पड़ेगा, डेट को स्ट्रेच कराना पड़ेगा, ऑपरेशन मेंटेनेंस को मैनेज करना पड़ेगा, फ्यूल के मद में कितना पैसा जाना चाहिए उसको रेजिमेंट करना पड़ेगा, फिर जाके ये मसला हल होगा। दिस इज नॉट अ शॉर्ट टर्म सोल्यूशन, इट विल टेक सम टाइम।
I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and in particular our panelists, Zafar Masood Saab, Khabar Mumtaz, and obviously our filmmaker, Beena Sarwar. A final round of applause for all of them, please.